But just to talk about some other kinds of interests, there's the LLC interest, and this is how you own a piece of a limited liability company. It's not the same as a share of stock. Typically, it's not even split up into like a discrete piece like a share is, although it's possible to have units which can operate very similar to shares. You can have almost any kind of right or limitation on your ownership of an LLC. It's a really interesting vehicle because you can set up whatever kind of structure you want. It has almost unlimited flexibility, but that also means that it can be really expensive to set up in the first place and to really get it right, especially if you have multiple members of that LLC. So it's not something that I advise too often for my most early stage companies if there's going to be multiple founders. If there's a single founder, on the other hand, then it can make a lot of sense because you have that pass-through taxation, which can be really advantageous. Another kind of interest that's a pure equity interest is an option or a warrant, and that's basically the right to purchase an interest at a future time. You see this a lot with incentives. Basically, I'll give one of the consultants 100 options to buy at a certain price, and then they just have those options, and then if there's an actual event which makes the value go above the strike price, then they'll cash out, and that works great. But in the interim, they don't actually have any stock, which means that they don't have the voting rights, they don't have the other minority rights of stockholders, so that can make management a little bit more simple. On the other side of equity, there's debt. And debt is, instead of owning a piece of something, it's loaning a piece of something. The most classic form of debt financing is a bank loan, and there's a few different varieties of these. You can have a term loan, which basically, there's a 3-year or 5-year term loan, whenever. You pay it off at the end. You can either have a balloon payment at the end where all the interest is due, or you can pay interest over time. You can have a revolver loan, which works really similar to a credit account. Say you have $30 million revolver, you have access to that, and you can use as much or as little of it as you want, and you pay interest on whatever's outstanding. There's also secured and unsecured debt. Secured debt basically means that the bank or lender takes a security interest in certain of your assets. It could be real property, it could be intellectual property, anything in between. And that security interest means that if you go bankrupt or there's some sort of liquidation event, that they're going to get access to those assets, which are then going to pay them back for the loan. So it's a way for them to make sure that they're paid. And you might say, like, well, why would I want to do that? I want to hold on to my stuff. Well, it actually results in usually a significantly lower interest rate. So if you have assets that you can secure with, it's often a good idea to do it. And one really common form of secured loan that you're probably all familiar with is a mortgage. So it's actually not so exotic. Usually bank loans have really strict financing covenants. You have to maintain your earnings to debt ratios and make sure that basically everything is functioning really smoothly. They're going to want reports consistently to show that your operations are where they need to be. So that can be a little bit annoying, but usually it's worth it because it lets you fund your business. There's also bonds and debentures and other kinds of private and publicly placed debt, but we're not really going to go into that now. One really important thing to know, though, is that your creditors always get paid back before equity. If there's any kind of event where there's like not enough funds, a liquidation or bankruptcy, something like that, creditors always get paid first, and equity gets paid last. And usually common stock actually gets paid last. If there's preferred, they're probably gonna have some sort of preference on liquidation. And what that means is that if you're the one who holds common stock and things go bad, you're probably not gonna get anything because everyone else is first in line. Hybrid interests. Convertible notes, people love convertible notes. They're great because they mix some of the best aspects of credit and debt. Basically, the investor gets the same payment priority of a creditor, meaning that they'll get paid first in everything, but they'll also have the upside of equity. Usually there's really no upside for debt. You're going to get whatever your interest rate is, and that's it. And if the company makes, just the interest rate, that's all you get paid. If they make billions of dollars, you still only get paid the interest rate. If you have equity, you have a sort of unlimited upside. So the convertible note is a way to get that unlimited upside while also having some of the protections of debt. The way that it works is there will be a triggering event, at which point the debt that's represented by the hybrid instrument will convert or have the option to convert into common shares or preferred shares or whatever you want that to. There's a bunch of different ways you can structure them. You can have capped or uncapped, and the difference between those is basically whether or not there's a limit on the maximum payout. Cap note means that there's only so much upside that you're actually going to allow that investor to get. It can be good, but honestly, a cap note to me doesn't make a lot of sense because it's almost like saying the most I'm going to let you get out of this is X amount anyways. So at that point, you've already sort of valued what the company is worth, and you should just be doing straight equity instead of some sort of like weird hybrid instrument, where the benefit is that it gives you more flexibility around the fact that you don't necessarily know what the valuation is going to be.